morning, it might be afternoon, I don't know, or evening. At any rate, I wanted to talk a little bit about this time of reflection, the last week of class or so, the last 2 weeks. It's after you finished your project, you're in reflecting about it and thinking about what this class has to do with civic engagement, that sort of blending of civic engagement and medical humanities. Now, it wouldn't be very fair in many ways if I didn't give you some sort of notion of my ideas about that. That doesn't mean you will not have other ideas, and I hope you do. And your writing should help you make those discoveries. But I sent around an email to everybody about a sort of combination of basic materials that can help you prepare for these two essays. The first essay, the first thing you need to do is look at the original video that's sort of an introduction, and it's in your links, and there's also materials in your under content for the readings, and you need to have those readings, my email, all that stuff kind of together so you can get a grip on how this thing works. The first one shouldn't be too difficult if you've been engaged in the process all along. The questions are laid out for you. What did you want to do in your project? What happened that helped you accomplish what you wanted to do? What happened that you did not expect in putting this project together? And then the most substantial part of that reflection would be, what did you learn? And you want to go into some detail, I think, about the skills and attitudes and that sort of thing that maybe helped you get through the project, the kinds of things that you might use and apply later. And that's what really the last question is about. What did that learning mean to you in regard to what you think and any plans you might have in the future for continuing this work or thinking about it. The final essay is a reflection on the course and upon medical humanities and civic engagement. The course is a course in civic engagement, and one of the first questions we asked was, what does medical humanities have to do with this? And so much of this essay is exploring that question. Obviously, my perspective is it has much to do with it. And in order for you to understand that, I suppose I should talk a little bit about one of the documents I gave you, which is this information on the framework that the NCTE puts out about writing. And the framework discussed the idea of what it takes to be the habits of mind that it takes for people to become good scholars, good writers, and good human beings, actually. And there's more of an emphasis on the habits of mind that help us become thoughtful, persistent, ethical, all those things, curious, engaged, responsible, open, and persistent students and citizens. And that citizens part is important because all those, the curiosity and the engaged part and responsibility are all part of that. So much of what we've been doing is putting these habits of mind together. And if I were to summarize my attitude about how this fits in with medical humanities, first of all, the purpose of rhetoric is as in writing, is primarily the growth of the human being, with the habits and skills of writing being the vehicle. Second, the creation of a good citizen. You get into politics about this and you begin to think, because you know more about medical humanities and trauma, how things work in this country in regards to medical issues, that you'll care more about health. You're more informed than many people, and you're going to be able to advocate for or against civil issues that affect care and health, and that is a very important part of our social interactions in the next few years, and part of sort of civic responsibilities that you're going to have, and it will go beyond voting. I mean, you need to know this stuff and be engaged in it, because it's going to affect you directly, going to affect your family, going to affect all those you love. So that connection between having a sense of what medical humanities is about and how that relates to you as a citizen and as a human being in the world are all part of what the course is about. Now, I wanted to say a couple things about the articles. The two main articles that I wanted you to read, the first one being Robert Cole's piece on community service work. Robert Coles talks about moving from the idea of doing volunteer work to the idea of service work, and the idea of a kind of stewardship of the world through our actions, and the fact that as a student all along you can make contributions to your community and to the world. And I think that's a pretty exciting thing, and what we've tried to do in the course is give you opportunities to be engaged in that kind of work, to have an effect on human beings, to find places to publish your work, to actually use it in events. We focused on Survive and Thrive and the information there because it's readily accessible to me, and I can provide you with a platform and a work site in which to do your work. Robert Cole's piece talking about the thing I like about Cole's is he sort of gives, he includes William Carlos Williams, he talks about his mother and father, he talks about, there's a kind of personal element of this in terms of doing public service, and you can even look at it as a kind of model, if you wish, for a kind of piece you might write in this regard. The second piece is by somebody who has been in the news quite a bit lately, Cornel West. For those of you who wonder where you've heard about that before, he's a friend of President Obama's, and there was a big row earlier in Obama's administration when some police officers came to Cornel West's house, and basically he felt treated him as a second-class citizen. I mean, there was a famous beer garden or beer talk over a beer with the police and Cornel West that was hosted by the president. Anyway, just that is not a lot to do with this article, but if you've heard of his name and think of him as some sort of radical, you're right. I mean, he's pretty, but to me he's pretty mainstream actually in terms of his attitudes. But he says a number of things in here that relate cultural and racial trauma to what we're talking about. And as you know, what some of those global issues and national issues are part of dealing with trauma narratives and the issue of trauma in your life and the lives of those you care about. He says a couple of things in here that are pertinent when he talks about the idea of a group of people being problematized. In other words, they are the problem rather than they have a problem, or there's a problem we should all be trying to solve. They are the problem. And this has been the problem in race relations for many years, and a part of what would be referred to as a kind of institutional racism that we deal with constantly. And so, and then he goes on to talk about the notion of individuality. He says the notion of individuality and civic are coupled so that the democratic project is generated. So there's something about advocating for positions that aren't part of the majority is an important part of the democratic project. And so as you advocate for those people who are marginalized, whether they be people of color, people with disadvantages, patients, you're really participating in the grand democratic project, which is uh, people resisting a sort of standard notion that all people have to follow certain protocols and have to act in certain ways. And so I think that that sort of thing can give you insight into how this course works and why the habits of mind you learn in this course translate both, of course, into medical humanities and narrative as medicine, but also to the habits of good citizenry, the habits of being a good human being. Um, so uh, that's what I wanted to say to you about this, and good luck on your papers. I'm looking forward to reading them.